look, the time is going to pass anyway. If you stay in your stagnant career or whatever part of your life that's just like gotten kind of boring and gotten, you just kind of dread it. If you stay in it, the next 5 years are going to pass regardless. Or now you can take this permission and you can lead with curiosity to find a new path, find something that's more exciting on an adventure.
You're watching Developing Potential with Diana Keuilian.
Welcome back, friends. Today we're talking about reinventing yourself and really this concept that you're never too old to do something new in your life. This is coming from a very personal place for me, this episode, because this was me. So 2 years ago, I was in a place where I felt very stagnant and my work wasn't fulfilling for me. And I just didn't have like this drive like I used to. And instead of being excited to work and, invested in what I was doing, I was just starting to feel kind of anxious and I would dread work, which was new for me because I've always kind of followed my creativity. And, we've talked about this in previous episodes of how our life purpose changes, right? At one stage in your life, you have this very clear path and this very clear purpose. And it's almost like you get to a bend in the road where it's time for something new. And it doesn't take away from what you've done before, but it means that it's time for something else. And so this episode, I want to really explore this idea. And above all else, I want to really give you permission to rethink your life. And not that you need my permission. You really need to give yourself permission. But sometimes when we hear it from the outside, it allows us to do that for ourselves on the inside. So this is me giving you permission to kind of rethink your life. And it's a moment where, we explore these pursuits and these goals that we've had in the past and that maybe we've put on a shelf. I know for myself, right out of college, I got married and my focus was really building businesses with my husband and being that supportive figure for him because I'm very detail oriented and I can do all of the tedious work that he cannot and will not do. And so that was the role that I took on, really with vigor and with passion. And it was such an exciting time to build something from nothing and to go from having, zero security and zero money and zero assets to together, being part of a team and building businesses and building wealth and all of that. And then, having my kids. And that was another big phase and season of my life of focusing in on the kids when they're young and helping them thrive and grow and develop. And then I got to a place, like I said, about 2.5 years ago, where I realized, okay, the businesses don't necessarily need me anymore. My kids are thriving and doing their own thing. And then I was able to really ask myself, like, what do I want to do? Like, what is interesting to me? What is something that would get me out of bed every day and really motivate me? And so I don't know where you are in your journey. If you're kind of at a midlife point like I was, where maybe you are rethinking, like, what's worked for me career-wise and focus-wise the past couple of decades, maybe that's not what you see for the next phase. And so giving yourself this time to really think, well, what could the next phase be? And so today, that's what we're going to focus on, right? So first is really identifying if there's any part of your life that is really out of alignment with your values today. So like I said, for myself, a huge core value was being part of this team with my husband to build security and to build these businesses together. it got to a point where I wasn't a vital piece of that anymore. And so this core value of needing to support kind of was diminished because it's like, well, the support is there now. And so I was able to really think about what's a core value to me. And for me personally, if I look back through all of my career interests in the past, it's always been about self-development. So even back when I was, 12 years old and first started learning about fitness and nutrition and, went through my own body transformation and nutrition transformation in my youth. And of course, the job that I wanted to be in college was I want to be a personal trainer because I want to help other people learn how to exercise and learn how to feel good in their body. That was my first big career thing. And working one-on-one with clients to help them become healthier and more fit was such a fulfilling part of my life. And then after that, it was, as I started to feed my kids solid foods as they got, older, went from babies to toddlers. And it was like, oh my gosh, this generation of kids, their nutrition is so poor. What can I do to, give them healthy foods? And that's when I started doing all my recipe work and recipe hacking and trying to put good nutrition into delicious food. And this was, again, just an extension of here's where I'm at in my development. What I'm doing to improve my life is this eating healthier. I want to share it with people. And so getting to this, older stage of my life where I gave myself this freedom to think, what's next? What is going to be, where am I at with my development? And so for me, the past several years, doing a lot of therapy and doing a lot of, trauma work and getting into the psychology and the emotions of what makes a human and how do we enhance that? How do we develop that? And so that's what brought me to the place where I was like, I want to go into psychology. And I actually had this thought 5 years ago. And at the time, my kids were a little younger, but also I think my doubts were just bigger. And I kind of told myself, you're not in your 20s anymore. You've kind of passed this point of being able to choose a career. And I kind of let these doubts speak to me and just sort of knock down this drive to do this next step, right? To do this next adventure of I want to go into being a mental health professional and I want to really educate myself and get into this field and learn and help push the field forward, right? Just seeing how much people need mental health, right? How far we have to go as a society and helping ourselves and helping each other and the next generation to be healthy emotionally and mentally, psychologically. But I blocked myself a few years ago by telling myself you're too old to pick a new career, right? And at the time I was in my late 30s. I was like, that ship has sailed, right? And maybe you're at a place in your life where you've thought that to yourself, like this ship has sailed. Or some people will say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? I'm in this industry, in this job. I've decided to do this, 20 years ago. And so this is the path for me. And I did hear something that kind of was helpful in my ability to then, ultimately say, no, I am going to go back to school. I don't care that I'm 40 and I might be in school with 20-year-olds, it's okay. I'm going to do this. And what I had heard was, this was somebody who was considering going back to school, and the degree that they wanted, I think it was a 6-year degree. And I remember she said to me, I don't know, 6 years is a lot of time to put into this. That's a big chunk of time. And then this idea that well, the next 6 years are going to go by anyway, right? Whatever time is going to take to invest in this pursuit, that time is going to go by anyway. So 6 years from now, you can just be 6 years older doing the same thing that you're doing, or you could be 6 years older with that degree under your belt, or whatever that accomplishment is or that pursuit is, right? And so this idea that like the time is going to go by anyway. So how are we going to use this time, to push us into this direction of, reinventing ourselves? So if there's a place in your life where you do feel like it used to excite you and now you just sort of have this anxiety or you just dread it. And that was the biggest thing for me when I realized like I'm just dreading this. And that was incongruent with how I like to live my life, which is I like to be excited about what I'm doing, right? And to feel this sense of like positive energy. And so when you really look in your life for like where things are stagnant or where things are kind of more, you feel more anxious about it rather than excited. And something that we can really look to is, I've kind of mentioned this already, is our core values. So everyone has their own values. And this is something that we do in therapy is we will pull out, values clarification worksheets and we'll sit with somebody and we will actually go through all these different options for like, these are things that you might value. And values are interesting because they're already there, right? Like you already have your values in place, but sometimes we're just not tuned into them. Right? We haven't taken the time to really think about like what's important to me and realizing that what's important to you is going to change at different stages of your life, in different stages of your development, right? Maybe your values in your 20s are definitely going to change and shift around when you're in your 30s. And then you get into your 40s and they shift around again, right? Like this phase of life, my values, my priorities shift. And we can really give ourselves a gift by taking the time to tune into and ask ourselves, like, what's important to me? And so for my own journey, knowing that this idea of working one-on-one with people, which I did back in my 20s as a fitness professional, I knew that was a value, like being in service to another human, but in a very like personal one-on-one way. I know that that's a value of mine, this service. And then another value of mine, knowing like I really like to share with others what works for me. And so that act of sharing is really a form of connection. And so knowing that service and connection are a big part of my current values. And then achievement has been a really big part of my value system of feeling alive and feeling excited when I have goals that I can go out and achieve. And so for me, that's important. And so right now, as you're kind of looking at your life and thinking like, where can I reinvent myself? Where might I be out of line with my values? I'm going to read through some values. And this is just, a small list of options. And really, as I'm reading these values, just allowing yourself to pay attention to anything that resonates with you. Potentially, the values that you hold the strongest won't be on this list, but just giving yourself this space to listen to different values and then just kind of notice if any of these values do pop out to you. So here are some values that you may have. Love, wealth, family, morals, success, knowledge, power, friends, free time, adventure, variety, calmness, freedom, fun, recognition, nature, popularity, responsibility, honesty, that's a big one for me too, humor, loyalty, reason, independence, achievement, beauty, spirituality, respect, peace, stability, also one of my values, wisdom, fairness, creativity, relaxation, and safety. So this is just kind of a good starting point to really allow yourself to think about, like, what do I value? What is important to me? And it's important to be in touch with your values so that as you make this change in your life and as you reinvent yourself in a way that allows you to feel alive again and not stagnant, right? It takes you away from that dread and anxiety of how you're spending your time, and it brings back just excitement and vigor and zest for what you're doing. So when what we do and our focus of our time and our effort is in line with our values, then we are going to feel this positive energy around it. So understanding our values really helps us to recognize the areas in our life that need more attention and really what we should prioritize in the future as we're on this self-development journey. So hopefully this is giving you, just some things to think about when it comes to reinventing yourself. And I want to go back to this idea of permission. Are you going to give yourself permission to reinvent yourself? And I would also like to just remind you, like, we have one life. We're here on this earth one time, and it goes by fast, and we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And I know for me, that's a huge part of why I want to live every single day pursuing something and living in the momentum of something that's really in line with my values. So I want to give you this permission to just rethink your life, right? And I'm going to urge you and ask you to give yourself this permission. And so the next thing is really just having curiosity. And I feel like curiosity is such a valuable asset to have. If you're able to be curious with yourself, right? And curious with the world around you, but really like curious with yourself and curious going inside and paying attention to, what are my values? Like, what would I feel excited about career-wise? And just going in with curiosity and having an open mind to what comes up, because you never know what's going to come up. It's sometimes it could be surprising, but it'll be like surprising, but also along with like, oh yeah, like I kind of knew that. Like I knew it was there. So having that curiosity and then just reminding yourself that, look, the time is going to pass anyway, right? If you stay in your stagnant career or whatever part of your life that's just like gotten kind of boring and gotten, you just kind of dread it. If you stay in it, the next 5 years are going to pass regardless. Or now you can take this permission and you can lead with curiosity to find a new path, find something that's more exciting, whether that be going back to school or, starting a new career, whatever that might be. Maybe it's moving. Like maybe you're stagnant in like the city that you live in and you need to get somewhere else and, just be part of a different community. Like whatever that is for you, that time is going to pass anyway. So making those changes now, restarting that timer and, knowing that you're going to get older anyway. So you might as well do it on an adventure, right? This whole entire episode is a call to adventure and just allowing yourself to not be stuck in the rut of whatever life might be right now, but instead to open yourself to something bigger. So I hope this has been helpful for you and that it's maybe given you some things to think about, or maybe a little spark of something. And if you feel a spark of something, I hope that you will tune into it with some curiosity and just give it some space. So thank you for joining me today. I will be back next week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Share it with somebody who maybe needs to reinvent themselves. And I will be back next week with more content.
Thanks for watching Developing Potential with Diana Keuilian.